Hello, I'm Kathy Bissell. Welcome to the Golf Show 2.0. This week's guest has a real gripping story to explain to us. Gary, why don't you introduce him?
We got a special guest. The name is Ledford, James Ledford. He's with Pride, Golf Pride. He's got a 00 license to grip. Golf Pride has a new tie-in with the James Bond franchise. Special edition grip is coming out or is already out. And it's pretty cool. You just don't think of grips with James Bond until now. I think these are going to sell out when people see them. It's either a souvenir or, frankly, I'm just going to slap them right on a set of irons. But James, tell us how long it was before you got turned down for the James Bond role and replaced Daniel Craig, and then tell us how this came about.
Yeah, well, this has been a fun project, probably the most fun in some ways that you'll see Golf Pride have with grip design. We have a number of Bond fans here, and it's something that we've been working on for a while, is to try and bring design into grips. A lot of people see it only as a functional product, but we've had fun doing different collaborative designs. This is the latest, and in a lot of ways, it was a challenge to kind of bring it to life. It definitely pushed us to see how could you bring some real Bond vibes to kind of that classic tour velvet that everybody's known and played with over time. So we had a ton of fun with it.
I bet these were the most fun meetings in the history of Golf Pride.
Yeah, in some ways, especially for those Bond fans, we were geeking out over all the little details, on the tuxedo. So, for those who have a chance to take a look at it, we went pretty deep, and it might be lost on some people, but even if you look at the bow tie, we had some thoughts about, is it a regular kind of silk satin, bow tie, or is it a cross grain, bow tie? So those that know their tuxedos, you'll see little details in there when you take a close look at the product.
Tell us about the special packaging that it comes in, which I think is going to be, some pretty incredible curve appeal.
Yeah, so we timed the launch of this grip with the 60th anniversary of Goldfinger. And Goldfinger, I don't know that people would say it's like one of the most famous golf movies, but it's definitely, I think, for a lot of people, one of the most famous golf scenes. Everybody remembers that. It's probably one of the more famous Bond scenes in a way. And so the whole kind of packaging is celebrating that 60th anniversary of Goldfinger and the match that took place in Stoke Park. And I was actually just at Stoke Park a few days ago. We did a launch event there. And it was fantastic, if you're a Bond fan, to be walking in the steps of kind of Sean Connery playing James Bond. So the course has been renovated recently, and so we were the first ones to be on there. We recreated some of the scenes on the 18th hole where, Bond was there with Goldfinger. We even had an actual working replica of that DB5 out there, shooting smoke out the back. And so it was a ton of fun.
It sounds like a great bit of fun. Did you have a stand-in for Odd Job?
We didn't, actually.
That's too bad.
That would have been interesting, particularly if he'd thrown his, top hat or whatever there to take the head off the statue.
It kills people. Yeah.
I did, having seen that scene a lot, we had some of the Bond guys there. In fact, we had the original, the guy that did the sound editing for Goldfinger won an Oscar, and he was there with his actual Oscar, talking about how that came to life. And we were asking different questions of people in the Bond films, and I was standing in front of the clubhouse, where that scene took place. And I said, well, where's the statue, that, he throws the hat and takes the head off? And they're like, well, that's not here. That's actually at Pinewood Studios. So they, of set the scene up there, but then actually did some of those shots at Pinewood Studios, which was interesting.
The miracle of editing.
Tell me about even back then.
I sort of assumed it was a prop, not a real statue, but
yeah.
Now I've heard from my inside sources that you're actually quite a James Bond aficionado. Tell us about your history with Bond.
Well, Yeah, like a lot of people, I've been a Bond fan, and everybody seems like I think they come into the James Bond world. It depends on your age a bit, but like when I was growing up, when I was a kid, it was Roger Moore was the first Bond that I ever saw. So that
You were
was
so young.
yeah, and so like that was kind of a they were fun. It was a very 70s kind of vibe, early 80s vibe. So that's what I grew up with. I actually kind of fell away from Bond a little bit, like in those Pierce Brosnan days for whatever reason. But when Daniel Craig hit, it pulled me right back in. It seemed like a
That's
more
interesting.
serious Bond, and it was for me. I thought was really compelling. Somebody mentioned, I think this is part of what pulled me back in was Craig was one of the first Bonds that actually looked like he could kill somebody. Like it got a bit more, serious when you think about how he showed up in Casino Royale. And so, since Daniel Craig came into the franchise, I became a huge Bond fan, and so now I'm really curious to see who they'll pick to follow him up because I think.
Wait, I thought he got killed in the last movie.
Yeah, so he did, but so it'll be interesting to see, where they go with it. Like I've heard different themes, which will be interesting. Like one of the ones that I think would be a ton of fun, I don't know if they'll do it, is the idea that with, Craig having been killed off in the last one, that they'll actually go back in time and do some sort of retrospective
retro.
of like
Okay.
Bond in the 50s and 60s, which would be pretty cool. So I don't know where they'll take it. I'm excited to see where it goes. I hope it's as good as the last 5 Craig movies that we've seen.
Yeah. Go back in time. Let's go back to male chauvinism. I don't know if that's going to fly.
Yeah, probably not. No.
Well, I thought since you're a Bond aficionado, I might ask you a couple of Bond trivia questions.
Okay.
How many Bond movies have there been?
Ooh, I don't know the precise answer. I feel like there's been like, I don't know, 26 movies or something like that. Is that right?
Kathy, what's your guess?
My guess would be 22.
No, 27. James was right in the money. How many actors have played James Bond so far?
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Bonds.
Well, if you have to count David Niven in that spoof Bond,
I didn't. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Who's the only Irish James Bond, Irish actor to play Bond?
The only Irish actor. That's a good question.
Pierce Brosnan?
Was it Sean Connery wasn't Irish. I don't know. Like, who was the only Irish Bond?
Kathy's right. It's Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, yeah. Really? Oh, okay.
Who's the only Australian actor who played Bond?
Australian.
Was the Australian actor that guy that just played one Bond movie? I forget his name now.
George Lazenby.
Yeah, George Lazenby. He was a good Bond.
Yeah, he was. Well, he looked great. I guess he didn't do his lines that great, and he talked himself out of doing a second one. What's the only Bond movie to gross over $1 billion in receipts?
What's
Skyfall?
Yeah,
Really?
Skyfall. Well, the earlier ones were just in the old days of, adjusted for inflation. I bet Goldfinger would be right up there.
Yeah, probably so.
But forget the trivia. What's your favorite? Who's your favorite Bond? I think we already know, James. And what's your favorite Bond movie?
So yeah, Craig's my favorite Bond for different reasons, and probably my top movies which are I think a lot of people's favorite movies are Casino Royale and Skyfall. But one of the things that I think I'm different from a lot of Bond fans, I hear a lot of people kind of talk down on Quantum of Solace, like it was never a very good movie. But I actually find myself watching that a fair amount on business trips and things like that. I think for me, Quantum of Solace is like a sleeper good movie. It was done when I think Hollywood was on strike or whatever, and so there's some kind of rough patches in there, the way they kind of brought it to life. But I think that's an underrated, like, good movie, at least of the Craig films. When you talk about the films all time, like as a kid, I think the one that really kind of first brought me in was probably Spy Who Loved Me, was probably the first, Roger Moore, like James Bond film that I saw. And then I went back and saw the Sean Connery, movies. So certainly Goldfinger, Dr. No, but the From Russia with Love is also really good. But that George Lazenby Bond movie, I went back and saw that just a couple of years ago. I hadn't known anything about it until like Craig pulled me in deeper. That's a good Bond film.
Yeah,
I've
it's
I've
got
seen
the
it, but I don't remember much about it.
well, it's got the Diana Rigg who played Mrs. Peel in the Avengers, which
Yeah.
again, I'm already gonna reveal how old I am, but she was the first woman on TV to actually fight and kickbox and use karate, and she wore these hot jumpsuits. She was the poster girl for my generation. The first one I remember seeing was Goldfinger. That's how old I am.
Really?
It was a movie experience because there hadn't been any movies like that, and the two Bond movies before that were black and white, and okay, is more of a spy movie. This was like there was no movie like this before, and I mean the best gimmick in any movie's got to be the Aston Martin ejector seat. That was awesome. Yeah, and you had a cool car, and it had machine guns and all kinds of fun toys. That just was a quantum leap as opposed to quantum solace.
And I have to say that that car is 60 years old now or whatever, but seeing it live, I mean that car's so that car is still, even 60 years later, to get close to it, to see it, it was pretty cool.
Do you have a favorite female co-star from a Bond movie? I hate to call them Bond girl, but
yeah,
they're really co-stars.
Bond girls, I think.
Yeah, I think my favorite probably is really Vesper. I thought there was a lot of kind of attitude in the way she kind of pushed back on Daniel Craig. So I don't know. That's probably my favorite.
That was Eva Green, I think, right?
Yeah, Eva Green. Yeah, in Casino Royale.
No, I thought you might say Halle Berry, although I don't think that movie was so great. But
yeah,
Diana Rigg would be right up there. But the first one, Ursula Andress in Dr. No, I think. She's got like Halle Berry. She's got the bikini scene. I mean.
That's true.
She doesn't have to act. She just has to wear a bikini.
That's right. It was memorable. I think I saw that one in the theater, which tells you how long ago it was.
Yeah. Well, James, tell us how you got hooked into, how you had the opportunity to get tied in with Bond, and how that came about. I guess this has been like a process almost a little over a year. Yeah.
So I think. I'll be honest, it happened a bit organically. We had been looking at different potential design collaborations for us on the grip side. We thought it would be a fun way to bring attention to the grip category, because for those who play golf, it's the starting point for everybody's golf swing. But to be honest, a lot of people, it's the most overlooked equipment category in golf. And so we're always trying to find fun and unique ways to just bring attention to something that is really quite important and can bring a lot of confidence to your game, if the grip is right on your clubs. And so we were looking at different things. Some of you may have seen, we did a design collaboration recently with Steph Curry to support his Underrated tour. And I think just word got out a bit that we were exploring these things. And I'll be honest, I can't remember whether Eon Productions and the 007 crew, whether they found us or we found them, but it came up, and we actually had some debate, about should we do something like this, because it was like really quite different, even for us inside Golf Pride. We're like, are we going to take on this design challenge? And to be honest, we didn't overthink it too much. We just had enough Bond fans here. We said, why not? Let's go for it. It'll be fun, and it'll be an interesting experiment to see how many other kind of Golf Pride / Bond fans are also out there with us. And so we just leaned into it a bit, and they were great to work with, and it's been a ton of fun. And it goes live. You can pre-order it right now, but I think it becomes available on October 1st, and it'll be interesting to see the reaction we get from people around the world.
Is it going to be on your website? Because I found it on a 007 something or another website.
That's right. Yeah, it'll be offered in two places. So primarily on the 007 site. And I think you may have seen this, Kathy. You can pre-order it right now. You can put your
Yes.
email and contact information in there and make sure you get some of the limited options. And I think eventually we'll have it on our golfpride.com site as well.
I think this customized grip thing is fun. These limited editions. I mean, even before Steph Curry, you had the V50 brought back the Victory 55, which
Mm-hmm.
I happened to buy a set of, and by the time I put them on, and I realized this is my all-time favorite grip, I went back to get more, and it's already sold out. So I wound up going online, and I think I found a Golf Galaxy that had one set left that they were trying to unload, and on eBay actually, and I lowballed them on a bid, and they took it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you're going to want these Bond, I think they're going to go pretty quick. I don't know how many you're going to make, but I don't think you can go wrong making limited runs of grips that are good, because real golfers, never mind the collectability, real golfers love good grips, and
they're going to wear out.
And we already know Golf Pride's background. I think they'll sell.
Well, and I'm glad you feel that way. For us, it's an exploration. A lot of people, I can see why they think this. They may think that grips are handles for their clubs, but if you're inside Golf Pride, we nerd out on grips, and we actually treat them as equipment for your hands. And so in that way, we almost see them a lot more like footwear. There's a performance element, there's a fit element, but people are used to like a style element for footwear. They're not always used to thinking about that when they think about their grips. But, we feel like, grips can be every bit as part of kind of like a style or self-expression. And so whether it's like, we have an MCC teams lineup that allows you to kind of like sport your favorite team's colors on your grips. The Steph Curry grip was a new one. This Bond grip is new. So I think so long as there's interest out there, we think it's a fun way to just kind of bring more attention to the category. So we hope to keep doing it. And, in particular for this Bond grip, if, we have the success that we hope with it, there's all kinds of fun ways that you could think about kind of extending off of just the tuxedo. The tuxedo seemed to be the most obvious to us when we were thinking about different concepts. But trust me, like there were a lot of other concepts on the whiteboard there that we could bring to life if this one does well.
Well, you've got the Halle Berry dress grip that's all silver. You got the woman who was painted gold and died. So you don't really want that.
Well, and can you go a step further and do like associated merchandise with this Golf Pride with, what Kathy said, or, put a martini or an Aston Martin or on T-shirts and hats. That would, that would be unique also.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, while we were there at this launch event at Stoke Park, it was interesting. We actually had several of the people from the Bond influencer community. So one, guy in particular from the Bond experience, he was there, David Zaritsky, and I mean, he came up looking just like Sean Connery from that golf scene. He had the exact polo, the hat, or excuse me, the cardigan, the hat, and some of those are available today. Like I think the cardigan was available from N. Peel, and I forget the hat. I think is maybe Lock & Co. and is still available. So it's interesting, like some of those things, they can still look cool today and are still available in certain ways, even though, people might not immediately associate them with Bond. When I was there and we were sitting in front of the DB5, going through all of its fun gadgets, that for me was an interesting kind of product concept to do, like a future DB5 grip. Imagine that silver, kind of pewter color. And some of the Aston Martin kind of like details in there. So I don't know if that'll end up coming to life, but
why can't Auric Goldfinger have his own grip? Why can't Scaramanga have his own the man with the golden grip? Ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
We can go on and on. I mean, Odd Job should have his own line of grips, I think, but I think one at a time.
That's true.
I looked up a list that there's there were some. I was going to ask you if you knew. I was going to ask you to yes or no if these following stars were in a Bond movie, but you're going to know them all, James. But I was surprised. I remember Jimmy Dean, but do you realize Woody Allen, John Cleese, Jack Lord from Hawaii Five-O, Robert Shaw, Telly Savalas, I've forgotten he played Ernst Blofeld.
Yeah.
Patrick McNee from The Avengers also. Wayne Newton, and Terry Hatcher of Desperate Housewives. They're all been in Bond movies.
Well, and a lot of people don't know this as well, but I think in Casino Royale, isn't it Richard Branson has a cameo? So, like, if you see that airport scene and he's going through the airport and there's a guy standing in the scanner with his hands up, that's actually Richard Branson from Virgin Atlantic.
Well,
so he's
why do I think if we look, maybe we'll see Paris Hilton in the background somewhere too. I don't know.
Possible.
It is the fun movie franchise that, there's always marathons of it and people watch it. I also looked up some of the actors who nearly got to play James Bond but didn't, which includes Michael Caine, who didn't want it because he was already in the John Le Carre movies.
Yeah.
Oliver Reed, Mel Gibson, they didn't want him because he wasn't British. James Brolin, they nearly brought in because I think Roger Moore was contract issues and they were afraid he was going to drop out. So there were some people and Ian Fleming, who wrote all the novels, his choice to play James Bond, and the original one was David Niven. But
interesting. Who would you choose? Who would you choose to succeed Craig, Gary? Seems like you're a pretty good Bond fan.
I'm not up enough on current actors. I mean, there's no reason it can't just be an unknown.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, and it might be better to be an unknown. Like I didn't know anything about Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
When he arrived. So just somebody who, I think you nailed it. Somebody who looks like he could actually kill people and will.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's kind of hard. A lot of people forget Daniel Craig when he was announced. Like, a lot of Bond fans did not like that movie.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Casino Royale comes out in that first kind of, scene, and all of a sudden that's all out the window. Everybody, loved it. It's too late now.
It was a jarring turnaround because it's what the franchise needed, because they went from Roger Moore was getting a little too casual, and then Pierce Brosnan was getting a little ridiculous, and it needed the sharp dose of reality that the directors and Craig brought, I thought. So
yeah, Roger Moore, it was getting a little campy, and
yes, that's the word. Yes.
Yeah.
As soon as Jimmy Dean's in a Bond movie,
were they the one
great on his variety show and making the sausage, but he's not. He should not be in a Bond movie.
Or Wayne.
Is that when they were in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we need to know about this process. There obviously when you buy the box, there's going to be an actual gold bar in there, correct?
Yeah, definitely like a simulated gold bar. A lot of gold.
A real one. Come on, do this right, James.
He's got the right first name for it, doesn't he?
It is kind of lathered. It is kind of lathered in gold, though. When you get the box there.
You need something. I really think
dripping in gold paint.
I really do like the name is Pride, Golf Pride. I think you could work that into a commercial. That'd be good.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But I just think it's a fun product, and it's innovative, and congrats to you guys for figuring it out. But don't stop there. Let's go through the whole Bond franchise.
Right.
I want my hat.
Trust me, there'll be a number of people here that would love to put together a whole line of Bond grips. So I hope everybody loves this one.
Yeah, well, I think they will. And the price is $189 for a set of 13. Is that right?
I think it's a set of 14. So there's an extra
14,
one there in case one doesn't go on quite straight or something like that. Yeah.
And remember, it's at the site, the 007 site right now, and we'll be on the Golf Pride site next week. Is that right?
Shortly. Yeah, next week, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. They go on sale first part of October. So get them in time for Christmas.